morning. It's a beautiful sunny morning on Monday. Now, I didn't manage to get the video out for Comic Con yesterday evening, so because I was absolutely exhausted. And also, you'll probably notice there isn't a lot of vlogging because we just wanted to go and watch a particular panel. So yeah, you get to actually walk around the con with me, but there isn't a lot of what I would class as vlogging. But at least you get a feel for what it was really like. And on Sunday, it was crazy. And there were some awesome costumes, and I was just, the cosplay was absolutely spot on Sunday. It really was. So big thanks to Luke and all his team. And you'll get to have a bit of a treat because there's a Pancast interview at the end. I say interview, I'm doing it, it's not exactly an interview, it's not that suggests it's organised. It wasn't. So enjoy, it's a quick walk around with a few of the panels, so bye.
Guy I'm working with, Trevor, just did a book a couple of years ago on Jack Johnson, boxer. Yeah. The original Johnson, it's called. And it's not particularly well known, brilliant, really interesting, and it's, the comics media is brilliant for telling a story. But I mean, you don't need a budget in a comic, you can do anything visually. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of fantasy things and dream sequences, and it covers all his life. And it's interesting, it's a good story, but it's nothing to do with superheroes. So I think I'd like to do a few more comics that are about things other than superheroes, some biographical comics, you know, Civil War. The Smithsonian actually are looking at doing a comic on slavery. I'm interested in that. But you know, it's kind of an interesting story to tell. It's not really done in comic form. So yeah.
That being said, I also enjoy the challenge of being given somebody else's idea to run with, or an established piece of work. What I would say, if anything, would be working for IDW. There's so much kind of retro books that bring in just now. Not only Transformers, which everybody loves, but things like Mask is coming out, Jim and the Holograms, which I know might sound a bit crazy, but anything like that, it's all so much kind of retro kind of gold there. To think you'll watch it as a kid and then be able to draw it, which is brilliant. So yeah, I think
because I spent 15 years trying to break into the comics book industry. I did everything. I was a builder, carpenter, bricklayer, gardener, painter, decorator, and the closest I came to anything to do with art was the last job I blagged on my way into was as a advertising designer. I saw the advert in the paper and I put on a suit and I went in. I flirted with the woman that owned it, got the job, went to the library and then researched Photoshop and Illustrator because you had to be proficient and I didn't even know what they were. Then I got into a course, I sent a random email, I did a Google search for local Midlands artists, and John McRae, his name came up, and I sent him an email and I said, if I send you some samples of my work, could you tell me whether I should just quit? Because I was looking for an excuse to just go, you know, I've spent 15 years doing this. About a month later, I got an email back, and it said, I'm actually running a course for the Hiatus, which was a charity at the time for Midlands artists, and you need to get 4 pages of sequential pencils and inks in. Oh, by the way, the deadline's in 3 days, sorry. And so I had like a 24-hour stint through the night, sent some stuff off, and there was 270 applicants and 15 spaces, and I managed to get a space.
Right.
And John got a job coming in on Transformers. He couldn't draw them, so I drew them in his name for some short feature. And that's when we then pitched the How to Draw guide together to Steve White, Tyre. That was the first gig. After that, I went on to Transformers Universe, and then I did Transformers Animated, the comic book. I also got to work with Simon Furman, whose work I grew up reading, and it was Turtles Fast Forward, which most people have never heard of, to be fair. It's like Turtles in the Future. Right. It wasn't very good. And then from then I jumped on to Spider-Man for a little bit, and I started as a colourist for John, and kept showing the editors my work, and managed to get work on Tower of Power, and then bring on the bad guys. And that led to doing sketch cards for tops of Star Wars, and then Mars Attacks, and then basically I looked at it all as brands. If I can get on brands, I can put that on the CV, and it looks good. And then went on to Marvel cards, and I don't know how many sets I've done. I've done a lot of sets, Retro Marvel, Women Marvel, World's Greatest Battles. And I've been very lucky in the sense that people who like the work have started to invite me to shows, and I know most of my work is commissioned, so I'm booked up to the end of all.
So, Jack, when you were filming, did you know what sort of phenomenon it was going to become?
No, actors were sitting around, you know, really the ones who became very well known, saying, I can't say this shit. I can't, how are we going to, what are we going to do? This is just, you know, this is just ridiculous. And Alec Guinness, actually, who was playing, you know, Big Pop, was, he just said, I can't believe this stuff, but give me a share. You know that story, right? He hadn't got this incredible. No, I mean, what happened was I was reading a book, I was working in the theatre. There was another guy who was in the same company as me, who was also Robert Omani. I haven't seen him since. I believe he lives in Ireland. He was a pilot. A couple of them passed away. Hoodkins passed away, I'm sad to say. And Garrick Hagan I see quite a lot. But Robert Omani, who was one of the pilots, and we sort of had adjacent dressing rooms. I haven't seen him since. He was an actor who was on his way to playing big parts in the theatre. We just sat around for 2 days, read books, and I had about 4 lines or something. And they put us on I'm sure you've heard the story before, they put us on these boards and shook us up to shook like that. And they said, do you mind being blown up? Not at all. And good job, thanks very much. George Lucas was incredibly quiet. And the guy who was making all the noise was the first assistant. Shut up! You know, all this kind of thing. In this big studio with the screen behind us.
It's longer than being peaked over.
Milkshake time! Boring Coke time.
How did you become involved in rentals, Chris?
Yes, well, I knew Robert Dunn pretty well, because I'd worked on Spinning Image with them, a radio show called Summer Cliche. And they asked if I, and Paul Jackson was also involved in Jasper Carrot's show that I'd done, again with Robert Dunn and things. So he basically said, do you want to come and audition for it? And I went along and auditioned, first of all for Ronan for Lister, which is quite interesting. It's like, I am a natural slob. I am really a slob. Yes, you know that, don't you? I don't believe it. I don't believe it, but it's true, I am. I am a complete slob, so I auditioned both. And then I got a rejection letter 2 weeks later. And then 3 weeks later, they said, do you want to do it? And I thought, yes, well, I'd love to. So that's my story. No.
Rejection letter?
Yeah, they didn't want you to.
Well, I read the ribbon. Did you? Seriously, yeah. With a little actor who was going to play Lister, and he'd have been a good Lister, I thought. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. He's a good actor, bloody good actor. He'd be good. Yeah. But as soon as I started saying the words, I knew that, it's not me. I'm not like that. You've got to have something about you that you're comfortable with the character if it's right for you. And then they said, can you try Holly, doing Holly, the Everybody's Dead Dave scene. And everyone was laughing their head off. And I thought, yeah, this is more like it. And I felt confident. I thought, I think I might have got this job. And I did get the job. I didn't get it by letter, he did. He got treated much better from the word go.
Oh. No, it's called tact. Bit of tact and charm.
I don't know, I can't even remember, it's such a long time ago. I cycled into the West End of London and locked my bike to a lamppost. I went to see these two blokes I know about before called Rob Grant and Doug Naylor, and we talked about robots and how they might walk. And so I did some funny walks, and then I didn't know either of them at all, and then they were sitting behind the table, and then I did my walks that were based on the World War II fighter pilot Douglas-Barber. Some of the older members of the audience may know what I'm talking about, who was a hero of World War II who lost both his legs in flying accidents. So he had a very peculiar walk. So I did my comedy Douglas-Barber disabled walk, and then Doug Naylor stood up and walked over to me, and he's only got one leg. So I thought, I haven't got this job, I've just completely utterly blown it. And then here I am now. So it was a very unlikely chance that I was in Bridgewater at all.
So do you think how did they cast you? What did they think of you for that role?
Oh, because I've done a play, I should have explained that. I did a play at the Edinburgh Festival in 1988 called Mammon, Robot, Born of Woman. You remember it was a hit. It was a huge hit. And I played a robot in that who had a voice that was slightly like the Crichton voice I do now, not quite a similar thing. And it was a very different robot, it was very different to Crichton. But, so there was a bit of robot in my DNA.
Yeah.
Nice. Look who I found! Pancast!
How was it, guys?
It was amazing.
Awesome.
It was amazing. I'm absolutely knackered, but
it was tiring, but it was awesome. Both days, it's just been fantastic. Fantastic crowds coming in, fantastic guests coming up and answering questions, but more.
It's one of those things where you've been waiting for months and months and months, talked about it for months and months and months. Now it's over. It'll be like tomorrow going back to work and you feel like a normal person.
Who wants to be
like normal, sort of special because you've been in because you've been on stage and talking to people that you've watched for years and
generations. Well, you saw today the podcast. I mean, what a reaction there, and what legends they were. Great guests and interviewees. And we didn't have to say a lot because there were so many questions.
No, the perfect panel because we asked one question and let everybody else
and then
off
it went.
Which is perfect. But it's been great. But it's been a real pleasure to be here. I think it's exceeded everybody's expectations in just how it was run and how many people were here and whether they had fun. I haven't seen one negative comment on Facebook, which is amazing for Facebook. Facebook is full of negative comments.
Facebook is always full of negative, It's been an awesome Comic Con.
It has.
I mean, I've been to one before. You've been to none.
This is my first.
You are a virgin.
I was.
He was. It's been popped. So now we are.
Squashed that cherry now.
Well and true.
It's firmly in my buttocks.
What about the celebrities? How did they feel about it? Because obviously they've all done comics.
The feedback has been very, very, very positive from the guys that put to a lot of comments. So they've been able to talk to the people to come up and put their signatures and pictures and everything like that. So.
That's going to be the problem. Is if next year it gets bigger.
When it gets bigger.
Yeah, and then they say they get maybe another 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
With weather like this, it could get a bit uncomfortable. But one thing I would say, that room, whether it has got it, it needs air conditioning.
Yeah, it gets hot in there.
Because I'm a bit clammy in all of my crevices and cracks.
Not as clammy as you were with one girl, but...
That's true, but then...
that was you were a little bit...
I'm going to enjoy that, my photographs for a long while. In 3-minute spurts, but I will enjoy them for a long while. Yeah, to be fair, I got a little bit obsessed this weekend with a certain lady.
Yeah, we have to say to people out there, if you've got a picture of the kick, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Please send it to Pancast, because that
that would be awesome. I could get that framed and just chuckle every time.
Yes, we were talking to Spencer today because he was supposed to be doing the 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And unfortunately he had to go.
And the one from John Altman stepped in.
But he did say to me, I said, "You're not going to do that again, are you?" He said, "I don't know, I might do." I said, "Well, can you do it to Neil this time so he doesn't know anything about it?" Okay. So, but he said he had some tight trousers on. He didn't think he could get his leg up that high.
Plus I spoke.
Did he?
4.
He didn't.
Nah, that's a shame.
He did sort of have a bit of a bend because he thought he was going to give it a go. But at the party with the stars last night, he was sat down and I still couldn't get my leg up to where his head was. So
yeah, he was a very tall bloke.
Going to do it to you again.
Was he? Yeah, I see. Life flashed before my eyes at that moment. But
it was great.
Another awesome moment.
It's just an awesome weekend.
Yeah, it's been great.
So who's going to be on your wish list for next year?
Oh my! I mean,
it's got to be Andrew Lincoln.
Someone like Andrew Lincoln. I think somebody because he's local, and he could be got. I think.
Yes.
I mean, apart from the obvious ones, like someone like Mark Hamill would be fantastic, and Carrie Fisher would be fantastic.
Yeah, anyone like that.
My only problem would be with that is I don't know if I'd be able to talk. I don't think I could be professional having someone like that. Yeah. Because it is surreal that you've got someone like Chris Barrie. I've been a fan of Chris Barrie since Spitting Image. And to have him 2 foot, 3 foot away from me, thinking that's the guy that and
growing up with
even someone like Carolyn Monroe, where I remember her in 3, 2, 1, and she helped me through those dark nights as a 14-year-old.
I mean, that's why
I told her that, and I think it was a bit too much.
I mean, that's why I had to ask about his favourite impression because people forget that he's such a phenomenal impression.
Oh yeah.
He was so good at his game at what he did. I know that a lot of the impressions are dated, but you have to hear something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when Robert did Cryto.
When he did the line and when he did Cry, I mean, that was all you needed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was gold. As soon as he did that line, that was it. The whole audience was sold.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, to be able to meet someone like Miltos, Euronimo, I got it right. Yeah. He was just an absolute legend. Somebody just so different from his character in Game of Thrones, and that was just for me he was one of my favourite people.
The highlights. He was such a giving person.
Yeah, and everybody was just so nice to talk to. That's the thing you hear about people who've got big egos and there's been little moments of that. But overall, I think pretty much, you say 99% of all of the celebrities that we've met have been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we bumped into a couple and really nice pie, and you just kind of go in, but you're famous.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just had the fun issue with you. I bumped into the Bond girls, and I went, I'm so sorry, and they went, oh my god, that's a Bond girl.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, isn't it?
It's all right. Yes, there's a bit more mileage on the clock, but they still have that beauty.
Well, they are beautiful.
Oh yeah, I mean, you still remember them from the Bond movie when you just kind of went.
I do frequently.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like...
I can't help it. I'm obsessed. Give me a couple of days. They're going again. Give me a couple of days and it'll be fine. I'll be back.
She said, I've got chubby. I thought, over there's got a chubby. That's what I was thinking.
I was making all the podcast stuff that you guys do. I was thinking any minute now the Divan Con's going to get worse.
I know.
They're going to get worse.
Did you see? I was the worst. I had to be quiet because I'm the worst of those.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. Is because we get very risque in the podcast, and you don't.
It was earlier, yeah, exactly.
You don't want to. You don't know how someone. I think that Caroline and Martine together it'd be like a carry-on movie. Because they're not. You say something like that, they're not going to go, "How dare you?" They would have a laugh.
Yeah, they would.
You could tell that, but in the end, it's just what makes it fun. You know, I'm so glad that we didn't do anything now. We just did it off the cuff because it made it so much fun. Calm down. Neil will take you out the back in a minute.
Well, okay, so I reckon a plug to the camera for all the Pancast stuff because we're on the network.
No, you're not.
Basically, you can find us on our website, pancast.co.uk. You can find us on the Facebook, Pancast, Twitter, Pancast Pods, excuse me. You can email us with any questions at pancast@live.com.
Cough it up, come on.
It's so nice of you to finally be doing that. I've been coughing the last 6 weeks.
Come over to our Facebook, please like us, and likewise at the website, it'd be great. You can find everything about Claire's wonderful podcasting
and all the other podcasts
on our network.
Indeed.
Super. And just all I say is keep podcasting because it's wonderful.
Absolutely.
We're gonna go now. It's all kinds of weird.
It's all closing away. Look, say bye, bye everybody.
There's dismembered animals going past. We better turn it all off.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if you want to see that. I mean, that's.
It's been awesome. All right, you take care. All right.